Kiss stealing, woo, wheeling dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah! Kurt Angle, yeah! Why, Triple H, you son of a tell me why! And Tony Khan, this is also on you!
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it!
What is up? What is up? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, right here on episode 4 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is Sunday, May 18th, 2025. We got a lot of things to talk about, man. A lot of stuff happening this weekend, man. We got Saturday night's main event happening this coming Saturday. We have, of course, AEW's Double or Nothing taking place in Arizona. Finally, AEW is no longer going to Vegas when it comes to Double or Nothing. But we got Double or Nothing. We got Saturday night's main event happening. Of course, we got a lot of things happening this coming weekend. Of course, we're also going to be talking about Darby Allin. That's actually going to be the main topic of this whole podcast. Is Darby Allin really the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley and his reign of terror in AEW, as everybody hates the fact that Jon Moxley is currently the AEW World Champion? And if you were somebody in 2022 when Jon Moxley was riding high as the AEW World Champion, you'd probably look at 2025 and be like, why is everybody so mad that Jon Moxley is the champion? Well, I got 2 words for you: Death Riders. That's why. But we're going to be talking about all this and much more right here on episode 4 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. Of course, the WrestleHavoc podcast is every Sunday night, not only on the WrestleHavoc channel, but also on the WNN Facebook page and YouTube channel. So if you guys are watching on any of those platforms, I thank you guys so much for joining me on this live stream. But before we get into all this craziness, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, we're going to be having a lot of content on the WrestleHavoc channel this coming week, so be on the lookout for all this content and much more. But yeah, man, a lot of news to talk about. We're going to be talking about Darby Allin, Double or Nothing, Saturday night's main event, Beach Break. We're going to be talking about AEW Beach Break, which took place this past Wednesday on, of course, on TBS, or if you're watching on Max. We're going to be talking about Gabe Kidd. Of course, Gabe Kidd helped Jon Moxley retain the AEW World Championship in that steel cage match. And I don't care what anybody says, Gabe Kidd is the man. We're going to be talking about MJF. Willow Nightingale also re-signed with the promotion. And some controversy last night. If you guys were watching AEW Collision, apparently Warner Brothers Discovery actually cut the live feed for Collision 40 minutes early, and they ended up airing Black Adam, which was kind of, if you really think about it, kind of funny, but at the same time, it was terrible on WBD's end. And I will be talking about Warner Brothers Discovery because I don't care what anybody says, even though I complain a lot about AEW's production, and trust me, they make a lot of mistakes when it comes to their production. I mean, if you watch like Dynamite or Collision, I mean, you got to be realistic, man. Sometimes these errors and these production issues that apparently Warner Brothers Discovery, has when it comes to producing AEW live. I mean, it's ridiculous. So, some of these issues that when it comes to the live feed, it is just insane. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that later on right here on the show. Of course, in our first topic, we're going to start off with WWE. This is actually the majority of the stuff that we're going to be talking about is AEW related, but we are going to be talking about WWE considering, of course, we have Saturday night's main events. We just came off the heels of Backlash, which took place, of course, last Saturday. I was about to say last Sunday. It was actually last Saturday because AEW does Sunday pay-per-views, WWE does Saturday PLEs. But Backlash, I thought, was a great show. If you guys haven't checked out my thoughts on Backlash, check out the previous episode of the WrestleHavoc podcast. But When it comes to Backlash, of course, it set a couple things up. Of course, John Cena had that press conference. And when he had that press conference, R-Truth came in. And R-Truth actually helped him retain the WWE title. And, of course, what happened? John Cena ended up... let's just say he ended up, hurting R-Truth at the press conference. He gave him the FU or the AA. I still call it the FU, but it's the attitude adjustment, the AA, at that press conference. And of course, we have now it's official. It's going to be John Cena versus R-Truth at Saturday night's main event. But let's talk about Saturday night's main event, man. Saturday night's main event is looking to be a pretty good show. Of course, Saturday night's main event happens 4 times a year on NBC. And if you guys don't know what Saturday night's main event is, Saturday night's main event is essentially a pay-per-view on broadcast television or on network television. That's basically what it is. And the card lineup for Saturday night's main event is actually pretty good. Let me actually pull up the card real quick. The card for Saturday night's main event, of course, we have 4 matches announced on the card. The first match that I believe was announced was Jey Uso versus Logan Paul for the World Heavyweight title. Of course, a lot of people were wondering why this match was not happening at Backlash. This is the reason why, because they wanted to save a couple of big matches for Saturday night's main event, considering, again, Saturday night's main event is essentially a pay-per-view on free television. That's what it is. So we're going to be getting a world title match between Jey Uso and Logan Paul, not to mention WWE did a bunch of promo segments with both Jey Uso and Logan Paul. So this was a given. And look, I don't care what anybody says. Logan Paul is not going to walk out Saturday night's main event with the World Heavyweight title. I don't care what anybody says. I think it'd be a disgrace, in my opinion. And look, I'm one of those people that genuinely believes that Logan Paul has earned his stripes. he has proven himself in a wrestling ring. I'm not the biggest fan of Logan Paul, but you can't deny the guy's work ethic and you can't deny the guy's ability in the ring. Logan Paul's fantastic, but him as a world champion, it don't cut it for me. Not to mention, it wouldn't really make sense if they had Logan Paul actually go over Jey Uso. It just wouldn't make sense at all, considering the fact that Jey Uso just won the World Heavyweight title. So it just wouldn't make sense whatsoever. So definitely 100% I do see Jey Uso retain the World Heavyweight title. We got Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest in a steel cage match. Of course, they had the street fight at WrestleMania. This is arguably the match that I'm least excited about. I mean, in my opinion, at least. I'm tired of Drew McIntyre versus Damian Priest. But, I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty good match. And, of course, WWE needs something to fill up this card. So they put Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre in a steel cage match. We got a tag team match pitting CM Punk and Sami Zayn teaming up together to take on Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. Of course, Seth Rollins has his new faction going on. He's aligned himself with Paul Heyman, and of course, Braun Breaker has joined Seth Rollins in this new faction. And there's a lot of interesting rumors about a potential new member of this new group. We still do not know the name of this new faction. A lot of people are pointing out that, this is Evolution 2.0. I'm sorry, but the people that say that this is Evolution 2.0 are the people that only know that how do I put this into words? The people that call this faction Evolution 2.0 they are people that only know of the NWO, DX, and Evolution. And that's it. They don't know any other factions. In my opinion, this is arguably the new version of the Dangerous Alliance. If you guys don't know what the Dangerous Alliance is, it was a faction back in WCW with, of course, Paul Heyman having his own group of heels. And, of course, he was the manager. And, of course, it was involving Steve Austin, Rick Rude. You get the drift. It was the Dangerous Alliance. I believe this is the new version of the Dangerous Alliance, but that is just me. But a lot of people are wondering who this new member is. Could we get that new member at Saturday night's main event? I have no idea. A lot of people are pointing towards a potential, young guy, like a guy like maybe Carmelo Hayes, a guy like Austin Theory. I don't think it's going to be a guy like Austin Theory, considering the fact that Austin Theory is kind of leaning towards a babyface run at the moment. I don't know if that's going to work because I'm not really the biggest fan of Austin Theory. I think he's a better heel, but they are leaning towards a eventual split with him and Grayson Waller, and I think they're going to turn him babyface in the long run. So I don't think it's going to be a guy like Austin Theory. It could be a guy like Carmelo Hayes, because if you really want to mold somebody for the future, I mean, Carmelo Hayes is the perfect guy to do that. But then again, you got a young guy like Braun Breaker. So he's not only the muscle, but he's also, the young guy. So do they really need a new member? I don't think so. But at the same time, I really want them to add a new member. A lot of people are also wondering whether or not it could be Sami Zayn. Of course, Sami Zayn has been acting a little bit strange lately, if you've been watching the program. Of course, he celebrated with Jey Uso, and he had that look on his face. And the PTSD in me thought, oh my God, Sami Zayn is going to beat the hell out of Jey Uso. But that ended up not happening. And of course, he rejected Seth Rollins' offer. But as you all know, and I've been watching wrestling for 10 plus years, if there's one thing you need to learn about wrestlers always lie. And Sami Zayn is not. Sami Zayn is definitely not in the exception. Sami Zayn 100%, could be the new member of Seth Rollins' faction. But I may be totally wrong. But we got CM Punk and Sami Zayn taking on Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. I definitely do see Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker going over. I think it'd make no sense for CM Punk and Sami Zayn to get the win in this match, considering if you're trying to establish this new heel group that Seth Rollins is leading, of course, you need to have Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker go over. And not to mention, Braun Breaker being a part of this group is possibly the best thing for Braun Breaker's career, and it can elevate him even more. All right, in our next matchup, we got, and I believe this is the main event, we got John Cena versus R-Truth. So, if you guys all know, if you guys see this poster right there, of course, this is the poster of John Cena. This is the poster for Saturday night's main event. Once WWE revealed this poster, you already knew that John Cena was going to be a part of this show. Now, WWE has announced John Cena versus R-Truth. On paper, it sounds like a dumb idea. It really does sound like a dumb idea. John Cena versus R-Truth. I mean, we're on his this is his retirement tour, and he's wrestling, of all people, R-Truth. Now, granted, he does have history with a guy like R-Truth, because I believe he did feud with R-Truth back in like 2011 when WWE did that little experiment with R-Truth as a heel. And of course, he did that whole little Jimmy thing. It was a whole train wreck. You guys know what I'm talking about. But ever since then, R-Truth has been kind of a comedy act on WWE TV for the last how many few years. But this is interesting, man. I thought the angle that they did at the press conference, in my opinion, the angle that they did at the press conference with John Cena being at the press conference and basically hitting the AA on R-Truth in front of the media was perfect. I thought it was really good. I'm being honest. I thought it was really good, and I love the way that they executed it. And if you guys watched SmackDown this past Friday, you saw the one-on-one interview that R-Truth did with Wade Barrett. R-Truth is still, acting like R-Truth, pretending that like nothing was wrong. But what do I see happening in this match? Number one, this is not going to be a 5-star classic. If you think that this match is going to be a 5-star classic, please get out of this live stream. But this is not going to be a 5-star classic. I do see a scenario where they could possibly have John Cena just squash this guy. But I don't know, man. Maybe he can beat R-Truth to a bloody point. I have no idea what they're going to be doing, but it's obvious that John Cena is going to go over. And also, I'd like to mention that this match is a non-title match, so the WWE title is not on the line. Thank the Lord. I mean, why would R-Truth challenge for the WWE title? I mean, in a perfect world, I would love to, because I think Ron the Truth Killings is a phenomenal wrestler. He's fantastic. If you've seen his TNA run, you know what I'm talking about. But again, this incarnation of R-Truth challenging for the WWE title to me just makes no sense. But again, I feel like a lot of the opponents that WWE is giving John Cena, I think, are coming from John Cena himself. Because again, I mean, John Cena is John Cena. I mean, he if he asks for something, he's gonna get it. That's what I see happening. And I think he wanted to work with R-Truth in this scenario. So that is why we're gonna be getting this match at Saturday night's main event. And honestly, for what they did this past week, at the press conference, honestly, you sold me on it. You sold me on it. So I don't think this is going to be terrible whatsoever. But again, a lot of people are kind of starting to think, or I don't even want to say starting to think, people already are starting to think that this whole heel run of John Cena has been kind of a fumble. And I definitely understand that. if you think that John Cena's heel run so far has been a disaster, I don't blame you, simply because of the fact that you expected one thing and you got something completely different and something that just didn't make sense. Because John Cena turned heel at the Elimination Chamber. Yeah, it was a big story that John Cena turned heel. But the bigger story was John Cena joining The Rock, who was, of course, the big final boss. He was the bad guy. He was the heel of this whole story because, again, The Rock wanted Cody's soul, all that stuff. You get my drift. And of course, you were watching WrestleMania, and yeah, John Cena won, but we got no Rock. The Rock was not there. And then, of course, you guys all know the Pat McAfee show. He goes on the Pat McAfee show and says, "Oh yeah, I was just there doing a favor for Ari Emanuel, considering Elimination Chamber was selling not bad, but just slow in terms of ticket sales." So if you really think about it, The Rock being there, you can tell WWE just did not plan this, accordingly. And the fact that they had John Cena join The Rock and offered no explanation clearly shows that The Rock is just pulling the strings whenever he wants to, and leaving Triple H and his crew just left for dead, basically. That's what's going on. That's what I see taking place. But that is Saturday night's main event for you guys. I think Saturday night's main event is going to be a pretty good show. Of course, the last two Saturday night's main event, of course, the one that we had in, I think it was December, which was the first one where they brought it back. And then the one in January, I thought both of those shows were great, and they did what they needed to do. It's not just a show for the sake of producing a show. And that was something that I really criticized AEW for, because if you guys don't remember, I remember when they first announced Battle of the Belts, everybody thought it was going to be like a pay-per-view live on TNT on free TV, but we never really got that. It was just a show for the sake of a show. And that was the biggest problem. Saturday night's main event is something completely different. I think Saturday night's main event, I think both of the shows that WWE produced when it came to Saturday night's main event were great. And I think the show that we're going to be getting on NBC this coming Saturday is going to be no different. And of course, the show is going to be taking place in Tampa, Florida. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Saturday night's main event. All right, moving on. We are going to be talking about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes was in the news this week, and of course, Cody Rhodes, everybody was talking about a potential heel turn with Cody Rhodes. Of course, Cody Rhodes is the former undisputed WWE champion, and he lost the title to John Cena at WrestleMania, which everybody expected John Cena to win the title. But when it comes to Cody Rhodes, everybody was talking about a potential Cody Rhodes heel turn. Now, Fightful actually put out a report. I'm actually going to read this report from Fightful. Cody Rhodes isn't planned for a heel turn, even though Rock says they could revisit things. So this was actually 3 days ago. I'm going to read this. This is according to Fightful Select. Cody Rhodes was pitched a heel turn, but there aren't plans for a heel turn. Earlier this year, Fightful Select confirmed a Dave Meltzer report that Cody Rhodes was actually pitched to turn heel. That ended up happening. We were told that at the time that around Rhodes were not in favor of the move for many reasons. Among them, there had been strong gates, merchandising, and ticket sales for Cody Rhodes as a babyface, and because at the time Rhodes was still getting major babyface reaction. Recently, The Rock was on the Pat McAfee show saying that they could revisit that, as well as, quote-unquote, Cody selling Rock his soul. Despite those comments, as of WrestleMania, there was no plan in order to turn Cody Rhodes heel. In fact, the company had created plans for him as a babyface throughout the year, which makes total sense. Those that we asked, that being Fightful, about it said that they didn't want to push too much of a spotlight on the situation shortly after The Rock's interview, but that a number of people were against the idea of turning Cody Rhodes heel, noting that has heavy contributions to the company's ticketing and merchandising success. So yeah, basically the whole report that Fightful put out is essentially saying that WWE nixed the idea. They nixed the idea of Cody Rhodes potentially turning heel. What do I have to say about this whole scenario? Hallelujah. Hallelujah, because clearly the idea of Cody Rhodes potentially turning heel was not coming from Triple H's camp. It was clearly coming from The Rock. Clearly coming from The Rock. And if you disagree with me, I don't know what to tell you. The whole idea of Cody Rhodes possibly turning heel and all that speculation clearly came from The Rock. And if you want proof, just go listen to the interview that The Rock put out on the Pat McAfee show. Listen to that interview. Clearly, The Rock wanted Cody to turn heel. The Rock is the type of individual that doesn't follow the product at all and just comes in whenever he wants to and then just changes things on the fly. The whole idea of the Cody selling his quote-unquote soul to The Rock, the whole purpose of that was essentially for Cody Rhodes to turn heel. And I said this a couple of weeks ago. The idea of Cody Rhodes turning heel makes no sense at this day and age. At least, as of right now, it just doesn't make any sense. Cody Rhodes is a proven draw. He sells tickets, and he sells a lot of merchandise. Why in the world would you want to turn this guy heel right now? It'd be the same exact situation as the WWF turning Steve Austin heel at the height of his career. Because they did that back at WrestleMania 17. Arguably the greatest WrestleMania of all time. And it ended up with the stinker with Steve Austin turning heel and joining Vince McMahon. It didn't make sense then, and it doesn't make sense now. Them turning Steve Austin heel was arguably one of the worst decisions that the WWF at the time made. Imagine if they had made that decision now. I'm not saying that Cody Rhodes could be a bad heel. If anything, Cody Rhodes is a fantastic heel. Just look at his work in Ring of Honor. Look at his work in New Japan. Cody Rhodes as a heel is fantastic. I urge you guys to check out a lot of clips of Cody Rhodes as a heel. A lot of his comments may shock you. Hell, even TNA, when he had that brief stint in TNA, or Impact Wrestling at the time, whatever you want to call it. Cody Rhodes as a heel can work. And he will be a bigger star when he turns heel. But the problem with that is, right now is not the time for him to turn heel. I'd say, in my opinion, I'd say wait an extra 2 to 3 years. An extra 2 to 3 years, then you can talk about turning Cody Rhodes heel. Until then, why are we turning this guy heel now? Why do we want to turn this guy heel now? This guy sells a bunch of merchandise. He's essentially, aside from guys like CM Punk and Roman Reigns, the top guy. He's the top draw of the WWE right now. He's basically there. And I know you've been hearing this constantly, not only by guys like Cody Rhodes himself, but WWE themselves as well. He's essentially their quarterback. That's who he is. He's the Steve Austin of this current era. He's the John Cena of this current era. Why do you want to turn him heel when he's selling a bunch of tickets? Why do you want to turn him heel when he's selling a bunch of merchandise? Why do you want to turn him heel when he's essentially your top draw? And he's getting really good reactions. Oh, but he got booed out of the building in Vegas. Don't make that as an argument. Because Vegas is Vegas. I don't care what anybody says. WrestleMania crowds are different than any other crowds. They will boo the babyfaces whenever they would want to. But again, Cody Rhodes, gets, phenomenal reactions. Now, granted, we haven't seen Cody Rhodes since WrestleMania. Now, who's to say they may boo him out of the building once he returns? If anything, he could possibly return this Saturday at Saturday Night's Main Event. You never know. It could happen. But again, WWE turning Cody Rhodes heel at this stage of the game makes no sense whatsoever. It's a stupid move. If you really want to talk about stupidity, turning Cody Rhodes heel at this stage of the game, at the height of Cody Rhodes' career, is a stupid move on WWE's end. And thank God they nixed the idea. I guarantee you Triple H looked at that idea and was like, no. No, why would I want to jeopardize my business right now? Why do you want to jeopardize the business when it's doing so well? A lot of the reason as to why WWE is doing so well is because of Cody Rhodes. He's not the sole reason. He's not the sole reason, but he's one of the reasons. It's not just Triple H. It was a joint effort with everybody, of course. The Bloodline storyline really kicked things into overdrive. Cody Rhodes had a lot to do with that as well. But again, the idea of them possibly turning Cody Rhodes heel, thank the Lord that they nixed that idea. Thank God they nixed that idea. Because it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Now, when is Cody Rhodes possibly going to return? Again, it could be at Saturday Night's Main Event. Who knows? Maybe it could be in a later date. Maybe SummerSlam. I have no idea. But his reaction, once he returns, will speak for itself. The reaction that Cody Rhodes will be getting once he returns will definitely speak for itself whether or not the fans still accept him as a babyface. And I believe that they would still accept him as a babyface. And one of the reasons as to why I believe in a guy like Cody Rhodes, and one of the main reasons as to why a lot of the everyday fans that go to these events gravitate towards Cody Rhodes is because essentially he's just like them. And they know his story. Cody Rhodes was originally with the WWE. I think he made his main roster debut, what was it, back in 2007? He stayed there up until 2016, going nowhere. Stardust, left, joined the Bullet Club, joined the Elite. Well, the Elite was a part of the Bullet Club, but you get my drift. Started AEW. Cody Rhodes' story is fantastic. Everybody, loved Cody Rhodes' story. And everybody wanted Cody Rhodes to succeed, and he did succeed. And he lost the title to John Cena. So the reaction that Cody Rhodes will be getting whenever he returns is definitely going to speak volumes when it comes to the whole situation. I guarantee you that could possibly determine whether or not they could turn Cody heel. But as of right now, again, as of right now, Cody Rhodes turning heel is just stupid. It's a stupid idea. It's a really, really, really dumb idea. Especially now that John Cena is currently a heel. He's eventually going to turn back babyface by the end of the year. Because again, people need to understand, this is John Cena's last year, by the way. He has up until December, and this guy's going to hang up the boots. He's done. So Cody Rhodes right now turning heel just makes no sense whatsoever. All right, moving on. We're going to be talking about Money in the Bank. Of course, Money in the Bank is going to be taking place June 7th in Los Angeles at the Intuit Dome. And of course, the Intuit Dome was the venue of the very first Raw on Netflix. So we had a couple of qualifying matches this past Friday on SmackDown. So I'm going to read you guys the results of these qualifying matches. We had a triple threat match for the men's, and we also had a triple threat match for the women's. Solo Sikoa defeated both Jimmy Uso and Rey Fenix. Solo Sikoa, in my opinion, in my eyes at least, the Solo Sikoa experiment failed. It failed, and I don't know why WWE is still pushing this whole narrative of Solo Sikoa and his new bloodline. Clearly, they're building towards a Jacob Fatu babyface run, considering now Jacob Fatu is the current U.S. champion. But we're going to have to wait down the line. But Solo Sikoa defeated Jimmy Uso and Rey Fenix. A lot of people on social media were saying that Rey Fenix was buried. I don't know why fans are talking like that. Rey Fenix is buried. What do you mean buried? He's just been a part of the company for like a month. A month and a half he's been a part of the company, and you're already calling this guy buried. It makes no sense. I don't know why people are complaining. Also, you need to realize that on the weekend of Money in the Bank is also the Worlds Collide show with the NXT talent and AAA talent. I 100% assume Rey Fenix and Penta are going to be a part of that show. They're not going to be a part of Money in the Bank, but they're going to be a part of the Worlds Collide show, which everybody, by the way, is going to be watching. I'm definitely excited for that Worlds Collide show. I'm very interested to see what's going to be happening. But again, Rey Fenix was not buried. If you think Rey Fenix was buried because he lost a qualifying match, you gotta really, contemplate your ideas because again, that just doesn't make any sense at all. For the women, we had Alexa Bliss defeating both Chelsea Green and Michin, aka Mia Yim. Of course, Alexa Bliss is going to be a part of the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We have a couple of upcoming Money in the Bank qualifying matches. We got Charlotte Flair versus Zelina Vega versus Julia, who, by the way, is now officially a part of the SmackDown roster. That should be a pretty interesting match. It's either going to boil down to one of two women, Charlotte Flair or Julia. And if I was a betting man, I'd probably, I'm going to be honest. Why would you not put Julia in the Money in the Bank ladder match? Arguably one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. You're going to put her in the Money in the Bank ladder match, 100%. And, of course, we also got LA Knight versus Aleister Black versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Dude, I don't know what in the world WWE's doing with Shinsuke Nakamura, but it's not good, bro. Shinsuke Nakamura, in my opinion, has been fallen by the wayside. Nobody cares what Shinsuke Nakamura is doing at the moment. It's either going to boil down to LA Knight or Aleister Black. And in my opinion, you just brought back Aleister Black. You might as well put that guy in the Money in the Bank ladder match. That's what I would do. But also, we got Logan Paul appearing tomorrow night on Raw. Now, we don't have I believe as of right now, we don't have any qualifying matches announced for tomorrow night's Raw. But a lot of people are speculating that Logan Paul, of course, Logan Paul is actually announced for tomorrow night's Raw. He's going to be live on Raw tomorrow night. And a lot of people are speculating as to whether or not he could possibly qualify himself for the Money in the Bank ladder match. I definitely see that happening, but we're going to have to wait and see. It's an interesting scenario, but I mean, Logan Paul has been a part of the Money in the Bank ladder match before. I definitely assume he's going to be a part of the match this year. That's just what I see happening. But yeah, those are the upcoming qualifying matches for Money in the Bank. I think Money in the Bank is going to be a great show. You know, in terms of the card, we do not know what the nature of the card is going to look like besides the Money in the Bank ladder matches for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. A lot of people are creating speculation as to whether or not we're possibly going to be getting John Cena versus CM Punk at Money in the Bank. On one hand, I really want to see that. I'm being honest. I really want to see John Cena versus CM Punk once again because, I mean, the chemistry that they had back in the day was fantastic. Of course, they had arguably one of the greatest matches of all time, that being Money in the Bank 2011 in Chicago. And, of course, John Cena was entering in a hostile environment considering, you know, Chicago was CM Punk's hometown. And that was at the height of CM Punk's popularity when he first started blowing up right after the pipe bomb. Arguably one of the greatest matches of all time. And, of course, they had that number one contenders match back in 2013 on that episode of Raw, which was a fantastic match. In my opinion, the wrong guy won, but whatever. But still, we could possibly see John Cena versus CM Punk. I mean, CM Punk did put out on Instagram, I believe via an Instagram story, he was watching, you know, Money in the Bank. So clearly he's eyeing the WWE title and John Cena. But again, we're going to have to wait and see. As of right now, CM Punk has his sights set on Seth Rollins. And of course, he has that tag team match scheduled for Saturday night's main event with Sami Zayn. So I don't think we're going to be getting John Cena versus CM Punk at Money in the Bank. I assume, and I actually hope this could be the case, we could get that here in Jersey at MetLife Stadium at SummerSlam. I'll cross my fingers that we're probably going to be getting John Cena versus CM Punk at MetLife Stadium. You're guaranteed to sell out. I don't care what anybody says. You're guaranteed to sell out if they announce that match for SummerSlam. That's just my opinion. But aside from that, that's Money in the Bank so far. I mean, Money in the Bank is only in a couple of weeks, and as of right now, WWE is doing qualifying matches for Money in the Bank. All right, moving on. We're going to be talking about AEW. Yes, All Elite Wrestling. We're going to be talking about Double or Nothing. Double or Nothing, if you guys don't know, is this Sunday. We got Saturday night's main event on Saturday. And, of course, we got Double or Nothing, which is going to be taking place this Sunday on pay-per-view. So I'm going to be doing a quick preview of Double or Nothing so far. We got 7 matches announced for this card for Double or Nothing. And I'm not going to lie, I'm not that excited for this show. There's only like 1 or 2 matches that I'm excited about. And think about this, you got to pay $50 for this show. Think about this, you got to pay $50 for this show. But there's only 2 matches that I'm excited about. And number 1, that's Will Ospreay versus Hangman Page, and I'll tell you guys why. And, of course, Anarchy in the Arena, and that's it. Everything else on the card is just not that interesting to me. But that's just me. But we got 7 matches announced for Double or Nothing. And, again, the card is not bad, but, you know, for AEW standards, in my opinion, I mean, the AEW could do a little bit better, but I do think AEW will 100% knock it out of the park because I don't care what anybody says, AEW knows how to produce pay-per-views. They are masters at producing pay-per-views. They always have match of the year contenders when it comes to their pay-per-views. I don't care what anybody says. But we got 7 matches announced for this card. We got FTR. Yes, FTR, the newly heel versions of FTR, taking on Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia. Again, you know, a match that could easily take place on either a Dynamite or a Collision, but they got to put it on the pay-per-view for the sake of putting it on the pay-per-view. That's just what I see when it comes to this match. But I will say, I'm loving FTR's new role as heels. Them pairing Stokely Hathaway, on paper, it just sounds dumb, but at the same time, Stokely Hathaway is fantastic at what he does, and from what we have seen so far with Stokely Hathaway and FTR, I thought it was great stuff, in my opinion at least. We got Ricochet, my boy Ricochet, taking on Mark Briscoe in a stretcher match. Again, a match that doesn't really need to take place at the pay-per-view. AEW does this all the time, and also WWE, but most of the time AEW does this all the time. They always tend to put matches that really don't need to be on the pay-per-view. They would announce like maybe 5 matches for a pay-per-view, and the week of the pay-per-view, they announce 5 more matches. And 5 of those matches are honestly don't need to be on the card. They really don't need to be on the card. This is one of those matches. Ricochet, look, I'm one of those people that believes that Ricochet is doing the best work of his career. I know a lot of people may disagree with me with that, but these are the same people that said, hey, Ricochet needs character work. Now Ricochet's giving you character work and you're complaining. Ricochet's doing phenomenal work in my eyes. Oh, his promos are not that good. Man, he's trying. He's trying. And this guy also cooked Javon Evans last week on Twitter. But also he had that, pretty good match with Zach Gowen. But we'll talk about that later on. But again, Ricochet versus Mark Briscoe, it doesn't really need to be on the card, but that's just me. We got the Hurt Syndicate taking on the Sons of Texas, that being Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. Of course, if you guys don't know, because a lot of people don't watch Ring of Honor, Sammy Guevara has been wrestling on Ring of Honor. Dustin Rhodes has been wrestling on Ring of Honor, and they were a tag team, or they are a tag team. And they're the current Ring of Honor tag team champions. Yeah, they're the current Ring of Honor tag team champions. Number 1, I like Dustin Rhodes, by the way. Dustin Rhodes is fantastic. But Sammy Guevara. Look, I think Sammy Guevara is talented. I don't care what look, Sammy Guevara is really good at what he does in the ring. But if you compare a guy like Sammy Guevara to like MJF, Darby Allin, remember how people put Sammy Guevara in that conversation? And I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty of this too. Everybody put Sammy Guevara in that conversation as the 4 pillars of AEW. It was MJF, Darby Allin, Jack Perry, aka Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. If you were to rank all of those guys, Sammy Guevara would be in the bottom of the barrel. At the bottom of the barrel. Nobody would care about Sammy Guevara. Because if you think about this, what has Sammy Guevara done ever since splitting away from Chris Jericho? He was a part of the Inner Circle back in the early days of AEW. And then after the Inner Circle split, he joined the Jericho Appreciation Society. Has that elevated Sammy Guevara at all? I'll tell you the answer. The answer is no. Sammy Guevara hasn't done a darn thing. I'm sorry, he hasn't done anything. And now he's in a tag team with Dustin Rhodes on Ring of Honor. Jack Perry has had more development fighting CM Punk backstage. Jack Perry has had more character development just by fighting CM Punk backstage. Now, granted, Jack Perry was the one that got choked out. Let's not kid ourselves. But still, that basically essentially made Jack Perry. Whatever you think about Jack Perry, you can't deny that made, quote unquote, Jack Perry. Even that is more interesting than Sammy Guevara. And now he's in a tag team with Dustin Rhodes. No shade on Dustin Rhodes, by the way. No shade on Dustin Rhodes. I'm just saying, Sammy Guevara has just gone nowhere. He's gone nowhere. He's gone nowhere. Now they're wrestling the Hurt Syndicate, who are the current AEW tag team champions. So you got tag team champions versus tag team champions, yet this is not a unification match. This is only one title on the line. Which I don't know what to think about that. But again, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara hold tag team titles that mean absolutely nothing. I don't care what anybody says. I appreciate what Tony Khan has done by giving more jobs to people on Ring of Honor. But if you really look at it in retrospect, Ring of Honor, in my opinion, is a dead brand. Ring of Honor is a dead brand. I don't care what anybody says. Ring of Honor is not the Ring of Honor that you used to watch. It's not the Ring of Honor that you watched all those classic matches like Samoa Joe versus CM Punk. You know, it's not the same Ring of Honor. I'm sorry. It just isn't. Or, Kevin Steen versus El Generico. Like, it's not the same Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor basically is what AEW Dark was. That's what it was. Ring of Honor isn't... it's just there. Ring of Honor is there. And what's even worse is that Ring of Honor is just there and you actually have to pay $9.99 to watch Ring of Honor. You have to pay $10 a month to watch Ring of Honor. I don't care what anybody says, but nobody's paying $10 a month to watch Ring of Honor. Nobody is doing that. Nobody is paying $10 a month to watch Ring of Honor. But that's my little mini rant on Ring of Honor. But we got the Hurt Syndicate taking on Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. And it's for the AEW Tag Team Championships. I think you guys already know who's going to win this match. And it's obviously Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. I mean, it's not even a debate. Toni Storm versus Mina Shirakawa for the AEW Women's World Championship. Of course, Mina Shirakawa won the, I believe it was a 4-way or a 3-way match. It was a 4-way match involving Azam, Sky Blue, and Toni Storm herself. It was an eliminator match, and Toni Storm actually ended up getting the pin. Mina Shirakawa actually pinned Toni Storm and got the title shot. And this is a rematch from last year's Forbidden Door. What are my thoughts on this? Of course, Mina Shirakawa and Toni Storm have some sort of history, so there's the story there. But I do see Toni Storm retaining her women's title. I don't see Mina Shirakawa, taking the title away from Toni Storm. That's just me, though. All right, here are the matches that I'm actually most excited about, and of course, those are the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Of course, the Owen Hart Cup tournament takes place every single year, every spring leading into the summer for AEW, and whoever wins that tournament will gain a title shot at their big show, that being All In. And of course, All In is going to be taking place in July at Globe Life Field. And for the women, we got Jamie Hayter, who in my opinion is one of the best women's wrestlers in the world. From an in-ring standpoint, she's fantastic. Taking on Mercedes Moné in the finals of the Women's Owen Hart Cup tournament. In my opinion, this match is utterly predictable. Even though this match is going to be great, and I love Jamie Hayter. And I actually have my fingers crossed. I really want Jamie Hayter to win this match. But considering that AEW already teased Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm a couple of weeks ago on Dynamite, you already know the match for All In. It's going to be Mercedes Moné versus Toni Storm. Look, I'm not denying. Look, that is a big match. For a show like All In a stadium, yeah, it's a big match. But, I mean, again, Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné, it's a predictable match. And clearly, Mercedes Moné is going to get the win. Mercedes Moné is going to get the win, and she's going to be facing Toni Storm at All In. That's what I see happening. But I would love for Jamie Hayter to win this tournament and actually face Toni Storm. I really, because Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter have history together. They did wrestle before. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. But the main match I'm really excited about, and has a lot of people talking, because the implications are crazy, because it has to do with one man and one man only, that being Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley right now is on his reign of terror. Think about the reign of terror that Triple H had as World Heavyweight Champion from 2002 through, 05? That was the reign of terror. Think about this. At the same period of time, Jeff Jarrett had his reign of terror in TNA as the NWA champion as well. This is basically this version of that. Jon Moxley is the current AEW champion, and he has his own reign of terror. And it's not a good one, by the way. It's not a good one because fans absolutely hate Jon Moxley as the AEW World Champion. And for an angle that was promising, AEW 100% fumbled the Death Rider storyline. If you guys didn't check out my video about the decline of AEW, it's my most viewed video on my channel. I definitely recommend you guys check it out. 33,000 people watched that video. 33,000 people. But this match has major implications. Hangman Page versus Will Ospreay in the finals of the men's Owen Hart Cup tournament. One of the things I love about this match is one word, and that one word is unpredictable. Literally, any one of these two guys winning this match could be the right decision. Like, either one of these two men going over in this match makes sense. It really does make sense. Think about that. It makes total sense. Because think about this. Will Ospreay, ever since joining AEW last year, making an immediate impact in the company, clearly is being positioned as the top guy in the promotion. Clearly is being positioned as the top guy in the promotion. But also you got a guy like Hangman Page who was already that top guy in the promotion. And then, of course, had his downward spiral in storyline. And then, of course, had his fantastic feud with Swerve Strickland. I don't care what anybody says, that feud with Swerve Strickland is arguably generational. And I know I may sound like a mark, but it's true. It's a generational feud, in my opinion. I may sound like a mark, but it is true. That match was fantastic. Or not that match, the feud itself was fantastic. You know, Swerve making it personal by breaking into to Hangman's house, and then Hangman just going ballistic and just going absolutely berserk on everybody to the point where he became obsessed with just ending Swerve Strickland, not just his career, his life. It got so crazy to the point where Swerve Strickland already became the AEW World Champion, and he buys his childhood home. He buys his childhood home only for Hangman Page to burn that childhood home in the ground. One of the greatest endings to any episode of AEW. I don't care what anybody says. That was arguably one of the greatest endings to not just any AEW Dynamite, to any pro wrestling show, period. Again, I know I sound like a mark, but it's true. It's true. That angle was played to perfection. Now, it could have been a little bit better. Now, imagine this. Imagine if Hangman, imagine if they did that exact angle, but Hangman was live on like Facebook or Instagram, burning Swerve Strickland's house. That would be even better. That's what I would have done. But again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. But Hangman's character progression has been nothing but perfection. Nothing but perfection. It's fantastic storytelling at its finest. Storytelling at its finest, in my opinion. But Will Ospreay and Hangman Page are kind of right now on par with each other. If you really look at it from a booking standpoint, they are on par with each other because both guys are being positioned at the top of AEW right now. These guys are main event players, essentially. These guys are main event wrestlers. So you could Will Ospreay winning and beating Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship makes sense. Hangman Page, who, by the way, has history with Jon Moxley, beating Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship at All In makes total sense as well. That's what makes this match great. Any decision that AEW makes when it comes to this match is arguably the right decision. And that's what I like about this match. That is exactly what I like about this match. Now, who do I think will win? Who do I think will win? In my opinion, I'm going to be real, man. In my opinion, Jon Moxley is going to drop the AEW World title to Hangman Page. Hangman Page, in my opinion, at this point is the guy. And we're going to be talking about Darby Allin later on this show because Darby Allin could also be slated to be the guy. But are fans going to accept Darby Allin as the guy? We'll talk about that later on right here on the program. But again, this match is 100% unpredictable, and I love it. Moving on, we got the main event. We got Anarchy. Anarchy in the arena. Anarchy in the arena. And we got a lot of things taking place when it comes to this match. Of course, the match was announced this past Wednesday on Dynamite. And Anarchy in the arena is basically a staple of the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. It's basically two teams, and they just fight all over the arena. But the one thing that makes Anarchy in the arena special is the fact that literally anything can happen. And AEW tends to go over the line a little bit too much when it comes to that match. AEW somehow, for whatever reason, always tends to top themselves every year when it comes to Anarchy in the arena. Like last year, man. Last year you had Darby Allin having a flamethrower and literally flaming Jack Perry on fire. Not only that, you had Darby Allin being hanged upside down in the middle of the ring while the Young Bucks were just beating him and just hitting him repeatedly with the kendo stick. It was crazy. I'm like, how in the world does AEW get away with this stuff? Like, they could easily, now I don't condone this, but bro, they could cause a serious crime and get away with it when it comes to this. That's how crazy Anarchy in the arena is. But the people that are going to be involved in this match, it's not official, but from the people that were involved in that closing angle on Dynamite this past Wednesday, Swerve Strickland, Kenny Omega, Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Willow Nightingale, I assume, are going to be a part of that match. Of course, they're going to be taking on Jon Moxley, the Young Bucks, Marina Shafir, Gabe Kidd. By the way, Gabe Kidd, of course, helped Jon Moxley retain the AEW World Championship this past Wednesday on Dynamite in that great steel cage match. Now, granted, the finish to that match was a little bit weird. Felt like the way that they introduced Gabe Kidd was a little bit kind of lazy, I'm not going to lie. But the closing angle to finish off Dynamite definitely, you know, made it up to me. Like, honestly, it was not bad. But Gabe Kidd, man. Gabe Kidd is arguably one of the, outside of both of the big two, that being WWE and AEW, Gabe Kidd is arguably like one of the best wrestlers out there. And I say that because of the fact that he just knows how to market himself. He knows how to market himself. Gabe Kidd is just that damn good at what he does, in my opinion. Gabe Kidd is just arguably like one of the best guys to ever do it. Not like to ever do it, but like you get what I'm saying. Like Gabe Kidd is just one of those guys that can just honestly sell you anything. Now, what do I mean by that? Why is Gabe Kidd joining Jon Moxley and the Death Riders? Well, let's just say Gabe Kidd is basically the antithesis of AEW. If you listen to any single interview that Gabe Kidd conducts, whether that's promoting a New Japan show, this guy will talk smack about any other wrestling promotion that is not New Japan Pro Wrestling. So he will talk crap about WWE. He'll be like, oh, if you just like watching theatrics, you can watch WWE. If you're a fat mark, you can go watch AEW. If you like just dumb wrestling, go watch the NWA. Like he will crap on everything. But that's his whole character. Gabe Kidd knows how to market himself. Gabe Kidd is again against AEW, which is essentially what the whole point of the Death Riders is. The whole point of the Death Riders is them taking over AEW. They are everything that AEW is against, that being the Death Riders, and Gabe Kidd is now essentially a part of it. And Jon Moxley did confirm in a promo segment on Collision. Now, it was a pre-recorded video package on Collision that he's working for Jon Moxley. That being Gabe Kidd is working for Jon Moxley. So again, I think Gabe Kidd joining the Death Riders is a fantastic move on AEW's end, in my opinion, at least. I dig it. I personally dig it, but that's just me. All right, moving on. So we're going to be, that was Double or Nothing for you guys. I think Double or Nothing is going to be a great show nonetheless. But again, is it a show that I'm like extremely excited about? No, I'm not. I think it's just good. It's another AEW pay-per-view. The big AEW pay-per-view is going to be, of course, in July, that being All In. And then, of course, we got Forbidden Door at the O2 Arena, which I mean, the matches that come into mind when it comes to Forbidden Door are like set in stone. I had two matches in mind that could easily main event Forbidden Door. Number one, Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega, and Zack Sabre Jr. versus Will Ospreay. End off. And it's going to take place in the UK, so like, why not? AEW has to do that. But again, we'll talk about Forbidden Door when we get to Forbidden Door, which is, I believe, in August. So we'll talk about that come August. But right now, we're focused on Double or Nothing, and Double or Nothing is this Sunday. It's going to be taking place in Glendale, Arizona. For the first time, AEW is actually taking a show that's always been in Vegas somewhere else. And I talked about this in previous weeks. On previous episodes of the podcast, one of my biggest complaints about AEW is the fact that they go to the same market every single year. Chicago every year for All Out. Double or Nothing every year in Las Vegas. Like, bro, it's annoying. You're going to burn out your audience. You got to go to different markets for each of these pay-per-views, in my opinion, at least. Like, that's just what I believe. But yeah, those are my thoughts. All right, moving on. When it comes to the WrestleHavoc podcast, of course, before we get into all this craziness right here on the show, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the freaking referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. All right, let's real quick talk about this past Wednesday's Dynamite. Let's talk about the results that took place at, of course, AEW Beach Break, or was the Dynamite? It was Dynamite's Beach Break. For some reason, I don't know why I don't have the photo here, but it is what it is. Whatever. All right, we had AEW Beach Break, and overall, I thought it was a fine episode of Dynamite. Of course, the main event had Jon Moxley versus Samoa Joe in the steel cage match. Real quick, I'm gonna tell you guys the results. we had Hangman Page and Will Ospreay taking on the Don Callis family's Josh Alexander and Konosuke Takeshita. I mean, Josh Alexander being a part of the Don Callis family, to me, he fits like a glove. He fits like a glove. Josh Alexander is fantastic at what he does. But the match itself was great. Of course, it's the whole can they coexist scenario. I know a lot of people hate that, but it is what it is. Hangman Page and Will Ospreay, the chemistry that both of these guys have in the ring as a team is great, but it's going to be even better when they're both in the ring together. I mean, both of these guys are going to steal the show this Sunday on pay-per-view. But, yeah, man, Hangman Page and Will Ospreay got the win. Basically what happened was they hit basically a combo of the buckshot lariat and the hidden blade. It was freaking awesome. I dug it. We had Ricochet defeating Zach Gowen. Yes, if you guys don't know who Zach Gowen is, it's the wrestler with one leg. He has a prosthetic leg. And he actually wrestled on this week's Dynamite, which I thought was pretty interesting. But Ricochet did go over in this match. The Hurt Syndicate defeated Top Flight. MJF officially joins the Hurt Syndicate, which is another topic I really want to talk about because MJF, you know, a lot of people tend to complain about AEW and their direction. A lot of people tend to complain about AEW, and I totally get it. Like, I understand. You know, one of the biggest problems with AEW is the fact that, in my opinion, when you watch the television show, they just don't know how to produce episodic television. They don't know how to produce episodic television. But this is one of those rare instances in which MJF possibly, or giving you the thought of him possibly joining the Hurt Syndicate, I mean, it just worked. It worked fantastically, and it kept, you know, AEW kept you hooked every single week, and they kept on teasing you whether or not, hey, is MJF going to join the Hurt Syndicate? You know, MVP said, yeah, he's in. Shelton Benjamin was like, yeah, he's in. Bobby Lashley every single week, even though MJF tried everything in the book to try to get Bobby Lashley's attention, Bobby Lashley still gave him the thumbs down. I thought that was very intriguing stuff. And arguably, this whole storyline with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, it's by far, in my opinion, the best storyline in AEW right now. This is more interesting and more entertaining than the Death Rider storyline. Now, I'm not saying that the Death Rider storyline was ever interesting. I'm not saying that whatsoever. Again, the Death Rider storyline is a complete and utter flop. Complete and utter flop. I don't care what anybody says. A complete and utter flop. This storyline takes the cake. This storyline is even 10 times better than Adam Cole and MJF. I don't care. I said it. I said it. It's 10 times better than Adam Cole and MJF. Because, I mean, again, the Adam Cole and MJF storyline, I mean, you can say AEW fumbled it, but at the same time, it was affected by real life situations. Adam Cole getting injured, unfortunately, MJF then getting injured. You get my drift. But when it comes to MJF and the Hurt Syndicate, of course, we got the official contract signing segment of MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. What are my thoughts on this whole storyline? Where do I think it will be leading to? This is one of my scenarios in which I actually think MJF joining the Hurt Syndicate, like, as a whole, like, fully, like, legitimately joining the Hurt Syndicate actually works. I actually believe MJF being, like, the leader of the Hurt Syndicate makes sense. I think he fits perfectly in that group. He fits perfectly, but at the same time, we know in MJF and his character, of course, MJF's character is a horrible human being. He will do whatever it takes to get the win. He will lie. He will do horrible things. MJF is a horrible human being. Now, there's been a lot of speculation as to where this storyline could be leading to. A lot of people are speculating, hey, maybe this could be a scenario in which MJF could possibly bring back the Pinnacle. If you guys don't know what the Pinnacle is, the Pinnacle was a faction in AEW from 2020 to, I believe, 2022, early 2022. And of course, it was basically a modern version of the Four Horsemen. So it was MJF, Shawn Spears, FTR, and Wardlow, essentially. And for those first few months, I mean, the Pinnacle versus the Inner Circle, it was great stuff. It was great TV. And also, you can take into consideration, from what it looks like is happening, it's kind of a similar situation with the Inner Circle and MJF storyline. Because if you guys don't remember, back during the pandemic, of course, MJF kind of slowly but surely inserted himself in the Inner Circle, and then he beat Chris Jericho, and then he officially joined the Inner Circle. You get my drift. It's kind of a similar situation here. But at the same time, of course, you know where that Inner Circle storyline led to. It led to the formation of the Pinnacle, which again is like a modernized version of the Four Horsemen. Keep in mind, the Four Horsemen is one of those factions that always gets like a new version like every couple of years. Because we got newer versions of the Four Horsemen, like even in the 90s. We had Evolution, of course, which was like the 2000s version of the Four Horsemen with Triple H, Ric Flair, Batista, Randy Orton. We had Fortune. If you guys watched TNA back in like 2010, you guys remember Fortune. We had that group, and of course we have the Pinnacle, which is again like the AEW version of the Four Horsemen. That's what it is. But again, could this lead to the reformation of the Pinnacle? I mean, look, I wouldn't be against that. I wouldn't be against AEW, bringing back the Pinnacle as a group. I mean, of course, you need to involve FTR. Like, FTR clearly should be involved if you're bringing back the Pinnacle. But again, who's going to be like the young star that's going to break out as a part of this, new Pinnacle if they are going to bring back the Pinnacle? We're going to have to wait and see. Maybe who knows? MJF could just stay as a part of the Hurt Syndicate, and that's it. He's officially a part of the Hurt Syndicate. I mean, there can be many different scenarios as to where AEW could possibly go, but I mean, it's a very interesting storyline, and I'm very intrigued on what AEW could possibly do this coming Wednesday on Dynamite. So I'm definitely interested. All right, moving on. We're going to be talking about Darby Allin. Darby Allin is in the news. But before we talk about Darby Allin, of course, this is episode 4 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. It is May 18th, 2025. Before we continue on with this show, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc channel right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Of course, the WrestleHavoc podcast is every Sunday night, not only on the WrestleHavoc channel, but also on the WNN Facebook page and YouTube channel as well. So if you guys are watching this live on Facebook or on YouTube, I thank you guys so much. I do my best every single week to provide you with the best wrestling content possible. All right, moving on. We got Darby Allin. Of course, Darby Allin has been off AEW television for a while now, for a couple of months. And there's only one reason, and one reason only, as to why he hasn't been on AEW television. And that is because of the fact that this guy has been climbing Mount Everest. And from what it looks like right now, Darby Allin has officially made it up. He climbed fully Mount Everest. And from what it looks like, man, Darby Allin reached his lifelong goal of climbing Mount Everest. So AEW actually tweeted this out. Top of the world, May 17th, 2025. 8:50 a.m. local time summit. Good weather was in our favor, but many teams took advantage of the short window as well, which slowed our progress more than expected. Darby Allin, USA. The team will savor the moment on top and then start the return back to Camp 4. So Darby Allin has officially made it all the way at the top of Mount Everest. Good on Darby Allin, man. I remember when Darby Allin first talked about climbing Mount Everest, bro. Not just me. Everybody. Every single fan that is a fan of Darby Allin. Every single fan of Darby Allin, or any other wrestling fan or AEW fan, whatever. Dude, everybody was afraid for Darby Allin's life. Because Darby Allin, if you guys don't know, I mean, you guys should know. You guys are wrestling fans watching this show. Darby Allin is the type of guy that literally, I'm going to be honest, Darby Allin is the type of guy that literally does anything to his body, and he just doesn't care. he doesn't care whatsoever. Like, he will, like, bro, this guy got hit by a bus in New York and still showed up on Dynamite and wrestled. Like, it's crazy. Like, the amount of punishment that this guy's body, takes, the amount of punishment that Darby Allin takes to, is just pure insanity. Pure insanity, in my opinion. But, I mean, you got to admit, Darby Allin is a daredevil. And, if Darby Allin, likes, putting himself in these, if Darby Allin likes putting himself in these, these life, killing situations, so be it. But again, him climbing Mount Everest was like a worry on a lot of people. And it was a worry on my end too, because like, if you're climbing Mount Everest is arguably like one of the most dangerous things that you could possibly do. A lot of people climb Mount Everest and don't come back. And the fact that Darby Allin actually managed to climb Mount Everest is fantastic. But why are we talking about Darby Allin? Why are we talking about Darby Allin? Is it because, he climbed Mount Everest? Well, that's one of the reasons why. But again, why are we talking about Darby Allin? Well, the main title of this whole podcast, or at least for this episode, is Darby Allin really the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship? It's a tough question. On one hand, you could easily say yes. But on the other hand, and a lot of people believe this, a lot of people don't think that Darby Allin is the guy. And I totally understand every single argument that all these fans are making, because a lot of these arguments are justified, by the way. Darby Allin, of course, ever since Jon Moxley started doing these cryptic promos saying that this is not your company anymore. And then, of course, he wrestled he suffocated Bryan Danielson not once at All Out, but once again at WrestleDream after beating Bryan Danielson and essentially retiring Bryan Danielson and winning the AEW World Championship. Of course, they had that amazing closing angle where the Death Riders just laid a beating, not only to Bryan Danielson, but on Darby Allin. And the closing shot, if you watched that WrestleDream pay-per-view, the closing shot after that angle was over, when the Death Riders left Bryan Danielson, left for dead, basically. They left Bryan Danielson in the ring. The last shot that AEW, had on that pay-per-view was a shot of Darby Allin with the look of, what the hell is going to happen now? It was essentially like an NWO like angle. Like when the NWO first started and you saw all those like beatdowns happening, that's what it felt like. It felt like a big deal. And of course, they had that angle at Full Gear, which I was at Full Gear, where Jon Moxley beat Orange Cassidy for the AEW title, the Death Riders retreat, and then Darby Allin basically drove a whole ass truck on the car of the Death Riders. It was a crazy scenario. But Darby Allin being the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley is a very interesting question. Now, Fightful did put out this report a day ago. Darby Allin has a mountain to climb. Darby Allin has been out of action since after the Continental Classic draw in New York City he had with Ricochet. He's long been planned to climb Mount Everest, something he's spoken about pursuing for years. When Fightful asked in January about his status, we were told that he was already off television and was expected to return until spring. Fightful recently asked about when he was expected to be back. We had been told upon Allen's absence, the hope was that he would be back by the Owen Hart Cup tournament and be featured on the Double or Nothing card. Fightful hasn't heard an update since then, however. The typical climb of Everest can take between 6 to 10 weeks. So then we get the news today that Darby Allin has reached the top of Mount Everest. And it sparked a whole conversation about whether or not Darby Allin should actually be the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley. Again, I understand all of the different arguments that all these people are making. On one hand, I do see Darby Allin being the guy to dethrone Moxley. I'm being honest. I do see Darby Allin as the guy. I don't understand this Darby Allin hatred that for some reason people all of a sudden just pulled out of their heads. Because from what I knew, people love Darby Allin. And I don't know why people are immediately turning on Darby Allin, but that's what I see on social media. Darby Allin can be the guy to dethrone Jon Moxley, 100%. But here's the problem. And this is a major problem. Darby Allin's not on television. Now, hear me out. Essentially, if you're building towards Darby Allin to dethrone Jon Moxley. It's basically the same thing as Sting dethroning Hollywood Hulk Hogan and the whole build to Starrcade in 1997. Now, you may think I'm crazy, and trust me, if you think I'm crazy, that's fine. I'm not comparing this whole storyline to the NWO because the NWO storyline was revolutionary back in the day. And ever since then, promotions have tried to copy the storyline, and they failed miserably at doing that. AEW included. And this is an example of that. But of course, Darby Allin has very similarities to Sting. Why do I say that? Sting bled WCW. Darby Allin bled AEW. Darby Allin's a daredevil. Sting was a daredevil. You get my drift. Sting did not wrestle a single match throughout the majority of 1997 in the build-up to that match against Hulk Hogan at Starrcade 1997. Now, it's a different scenario in which Darby Allin went out to climb Mount Everest because that was in his bucket list of things to do in his life, and AEW let him do it. Now, think about this. Imagine if Darby Allin comes back and he is slated to beat Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. Number one, that wouldn't make sense. Simply because of the fact that Hangman Page and Will Ospreay are in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. That's it. Whoever wins that match will face Jon Moxley at All In. So Darby Allin essentially facing Jon Moxley is out of the window. It's out of the window. It really is. If you really think about it, it is out of the window. But a lot of people are fantasy booking in their heads. What if Darby Allin returns, but Jon Moxley still retains? I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm being honest. Considering AEW throughout 2025 has had a track record of just terrible pay-per-view main events, not terrible pay-per-views, terrible pay-per-view main events. I'm talking about the last match on the card, terrible pay-per-view main events. AEW has had some crappy main events this year. I mean, Adam Copeland versus Jon Moxley was a terrible match. Swerve Strickland, I mean, not even 2020, by the end of 2024 as well, they were terrible main events as well. Like, I thought the match between Orange Cassidy and Jon Moxley was, in my opinion, just boring. It was a boring match. Swerve Strickland and Jon Moxley was not that bad of a match, but of course, everybody was upset about the ending. Everybody was upset at the fact that Jon Moxley retained the title. Not only that, the Young Bucks came in and essentially cost Swerve Strickland the match. I, for one, wasn't that upset because I expected Jon Moxley to retain. I, for one, could even make the argument that the finish at Revolution was 10 times worse than the finish that we got at Dynasty. Yeah, I said it. The finish that we saw at Revolution was 10 times worse. I was way more upset at the finish of Revolution than I was at Dynasty. I'm being serious. But again, Darby Allin comes back, but Jon Moxley still... Like, Jon Moxley retains the AEW World title, and after that, a whole beatdown ensues, and then Darby Allin comes back. Are fans going to take AEW seriously if that is the case? I don't know. Because clearly you got two baby faces that are clear-cut winners that could easily dethrone Jon Moxley. But then we're going to wait for Darby Allin to come back and then just have him dethrone Moxley. If you really think about it, them bringing back Darby Allin to beat Jon Moxley, in a way, and this is, bro, I'm the biggest Darby Allin fan ever, okay? I think the hate that Darby Allin's getting now is unwarranted. I think it's dumb. But at the same time, imagine this, you're a promotion, right? And you let one of your top guys go climb Mount Everest, so they're going to be off TV for how many few months? Like, what is it, 5 months? He has to prepare to climb Mount Everest, and then he's going to climb Mount Everest, and that takes like 6 weeks to do. And then you're going to bring him back only to reward him with the world championship. I don't know about you guys, but that sounds like a very questionable decision. To me, that sends a bad message, and it's a bad look. It's essentially you rewarding talent for not showing up to work. That's the perception a lot of people will get out of that whole scenario. So I understand the core argument. I get it. Or could we be seeing a scenario in which Darby Allin comes back during the match with Jon Moxley or Hangman versus Hangman Page, or Jon Moxley versus Will Ospreay, and he helps either Hangman Page or Will Ospreay beat Jon Moxley and then have them win the AEW World Championship? I could very well see that happening. But here's the question I have for that scenario. If you have Darby Allin helping Hangman Page or helping a guy like Will Ospreay win the AEW World Championship, what are you going to do with Darby Allin after? What are you going to do with Darby Allin? Because last time I checked, Darby Allin had a title shot that was basically taken away from him by Jon Moxley. He had a title shot that he lost when he lost to Jon Moxley. So again, if Darby Allin comes back only to help Hangman Page win the World Championship, which, by the way, Hangman Page beating Jon Moxley is the perfect story for Hangman Page. I'm not saying it's a bad move. It's a perfect move on AEW's end because everybody is tired of the Death Riders. Look, I may be one of the very few people that like the Death Riders as a group, but the whole execution of the storyline was just pure garbage. Darby Allin helping Hangman Page win the title would be a great move, but again, what are you going to do with Darby Allin after? What's the follow-up in terms of Darby Allin? Not Hangman Page. I would assume if they had Hangman Page beat Jon Moxley, they would know what to do with Hangman Page after. I mean, there's a whole slew of guys that Hangman Page could feud with as the world champion. 100%. But what are you going to do with Darby Allin if he would essentially help either Hangman Page or Will Ospreay beat Jon Moxley at All In? That's just my whole argument that I'm trying to make. So the question that I ask all of you guys, is Darby Allin the right guy? Yes or no? The answer is I have absolutely no freaking idea. That's my answer. Because again, there's so many different scenarios that AEW could go. But AEW, throughout this whole year alone, when it comes to the Death Riders, has gotten so much heat in a bad way by a lot of the fan base, considering the way that they have booked the Death Riders into not into oblivion, but basically shoved the Death Riders down everybody's throats. Everybody hates the Death Riders. Like, a lot of people view the Death Riders as guys that don't get legitimate heel heat. They view the Death Riders as guys that get go-away heat. Now, what's the difference between legitimate heel heat and go-away heat? Isn't heat just one thing? No, actually, there's two different types of heat. There's legitimate heel heat and there's legitimate go-away heat. Legitimate heel heat is when a heel is actually doing heel things and the crowd is booing the heel because they want to see the heel get their ass kicked. Go-away heat, if you guys don't know this, go-away heat is a scenario in which basically the audience is booing a certain individual that they just don't want to see on their television screens at all. That is what the Death Riders are, essentially. They're basically a group of heels that get go-away heat. They don't get legitimate heel heat. They get go-away heat. Fans do not like the Death Riders. End off. I may be one of those guys that sometimes, not all the time, because I think, again, the execution of the storyline was terrible. But again, I'm one of those guys that tends to look at all different perspectives when it comes to the Death Riders. But again, the Death Riders, the way that AEW has handled the storyline has been just absolutely atrocious. Atrocious. It could possibly be a lose-lose situation for AEW. Not even a lose-lose situation. It's a win-lose situation. It's a win-lose situation. Have Darby Allin help Hangman, retain the title. Or win the title, sorry. But at the same time, again, what do you do with Darby? So in that case, it is a lose-lose. But then if you have Hangman lose, or if you have Will Ospreay lose, are people going to believe in Hangman Page or Will Ospreay? Because think about this. AEW has worked tremendously hard to build Hangman Page back up as the top guy. Only for him to lose to Jon Moxley? I mean, I don't know about you, but that also sends a bad message as well. Fans are going to riot if that happens. I'm telling you right now, fans are going to riot. But it's a weird situation. There's so many different possibilities that AEW can go And on one hand, it is a good thing. But at the same time, they need to be careful with the decisions that they make, because it could honestly end up backfiring on AEW, because AEW, in terms of the main event scene, has been kind of lacklustering, simply because of the fact that the Death Riders has been on our television screens for a long ass time at this point. But it's a very interesting scenario. So again, the question is Darby Allin the right guy to beat Jon Moxley? Yes and no. That's my answer. Yes and no. Or I don't know. Again, a part of me wants Darby Allin to be the guy. But here's another thing. Darby Allin hasn't been on TV. Now, you could use that to your advantage. But at the same time, everybody knows Darby Allin has been climbing Mount Everest. Not to mention, AEW hasn't really done anything. Think about this. AEW hasn't really done anything to really build up that potential guy to beat Jon Moxley. They really haven't done that. They haven't even done that with Hangman Page or Will Ospreay. I mean, they built up, Hangman Page. They built up Will Ospreay ever since, Will Ospreay joined. But in terms of dethroning Mox, they really haven't, built anything. It's kind of a similar situation with Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. Before Cody Rhodes came into the door and returned to the WWE back in 2022, WWE had no plan whatsoever in terms of who's going to beat Roman Reigns for the undisputed title. It's kind of the same situation here in AEW. It's the same situation here. It's a very interesting scenario, but those are my thoughts on Darby Allin. All right, moving on. Some quick AEW notes. If you guys watched Collision last night, apparently Warner Brothers Discovery, which is of course their parent company, by accident, whoever's running the TNT feed, cut Collision 40 minutes early. So if you were watching Collision on TNT or on Max, I don't know if this happened on Max, because I watch all AEW content on Max because I don't have cable anymore. But if you were watching the feed on TNT last night, apparently, by accident, the feed cut off and it immediately started to play Black Adam. What are my thoughts on that? Look, it's no secret that AEW's production can be terrible at many points. If you look, AEW's production is not terrible, but if you compare their production to WWE's production, it's like night and day. It's not even close. But at the same time, you can't really put all the blame on AEW, because at the same time, whoever's running the feed at TNT is literally messing up big time, because the censorship is ridiculous. They would always censor crowd chants. And we see this on the USA Network as well. We also see it on Netflix. We see it on Netflix as well. We see a bunch of random glitches on Dynamite. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, some of these glitches are just insane, and they're just stupid. So in my opinion, I mean, that happening was kind of an embarrassment on WBD's end. Clearly it was an accident, but at the same time, it was a very serious situation. I mean, like, how do you cut a program 40 minutes early? Like, it makes no sense. And now you have a lot of people on social media just going absolutely ballistic. But I wanted to get that note out there about the feed cutting off. In our final story, we're going to be talking about Willow Nightingale. If you guys don't know, Willow Nightingale is one of the top women's wrestlers on the women's division in AEW. And as of right now, Willow Nightingale has signed a new multi-year deal with the organization. According to Fightful Select, Willow Nightingale is sticking around in AEW. Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp reported recently that the former TBS champion Willow Nightingale was in her contract year. Beyond that, Fightful's also reported that AEW was interested in keeping her, and as they should, because I mean, from what it looks like, they're about to let Mariah May slip through their fingertips. Continuing on, of course, they reported that AEW was interested in keeping her and considered her a priority. So much so that a deal was done almost immediately after their story. Sources indicated that early that she was sticking with the company, and Fightful confirmed it this week. Fightful Select has confirmed that Willow Nightingale has re-signed with AEW on a multi-year contract. AEW sources say that Nightingale communicated and she was happy with the company and wanted to remain there. Good on Willow Nightingale. Good on Willow Nightingale. Of course, she's being positioned as one of the top stars in the women's division. And good on Willow Nightingale. Willow Nightingale is absolutely fantastic. I'm a big fan of Willow Nightingale. Congratulations to Willow Nightingale. She's going to stay with AEW for the foreseeable future. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in AEW, considering, of course, the whole Mariah May situation. If you guys don't know, apparently, from what it looks like, Mariah May is WWE bound. Of course, Mariah May is the former AEW Women's World Champion. She had that phenomenal match with Toni Storm at Revolution, and a lot of people were asking, gee, why didn't that match main event Revolution? I asked myself the same question. Why didn't they main event Revolution? And then, of course, as the weeks went on and we started to get these reports about these contract issues going on with Mariah May, about how Mariah May is, not re-signing with AEW because I believe this is her contract year and she's not re-signing with AEW. That's probably why Toni Storm and Mariah May did not main event Revolution. But again, man, AEW could possibly let Mariah May slip through their fingertips. And if they do, that is going to be a big fumble on Tony Khan's end. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. But yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast, episode 4 of the WrestleHavoc podcast from Sunday, May 18th, 2024. We definitely talked about a lot of stuff right here on the program. A lot of AEW talk, a lot of AEW discussions right here on the show. But yeah, that was the program. Of course, the WrestleHavoc podcast is every Sunday night, not only on the WrestleHavoc channel, but also on the WNN Facebook page and YouTube channel. So yeah, that was the WrestleHavoc podcast from Sunday, May 18th, 2024. Be on the lookout for more content right here on the WrestleHavoc channel. Of course, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc channel, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. And as always, it is yours truly, Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys all next week right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast. Peace.
Get stealing, woo, wheeling, dealing, limousine riding, jet flying, son of a gun. Yeah! Kurt Angle, yeah! Why, Triple H, you son of a tell me why. And Tony Khan, this is also on you.
I am going to ruin wrestling.
Just get over it.